I didn't lose my boyfriend. I lost my sister, and she broke up with him in my place. I'm telling you this from my couch, where the only light is the glow of the TV I forgot to turn off and the blue slice of the microwave clock. It's after midnight, and I'm huddled in an old hoodie that still smells like his cologne if I breathe deeply enough. I know I'm meant to be asleep. I know I'm not meant to be thinking about this again. But if I don't talk about it, it just goes around, round and round, like a song you didn't even enjoy the first time. We met in the kind of way that sounds too tidy for real life. It was a Tuesday. I'd spilled coffee all over a beige blouse just before a client meeting, and I ducked into this little boutique close to my office to grab something, anything, I could pretend was an intentional outfit. He was there with his sister, which I remember because he was looking bored and she was looking like she was on some sort of anthropological mission to discover scarves. He was across the way at the mirror rack, idly flipping through a magazine from 2019. I picked up a shirt that was probably meant for nighttime going out and was holding it up against my coffee-stained front. He glanced up, met my gaze, and said, "That shirt says, 'Have fun at your 6th wedding.'" I laughed through my nose, my worst laugh, the little piggy sound. "It's a meeting shirt," I said to him. "It's not a meeting shirt," he said, and his sister nodded like a judge. He indicated another one, a soft blue with these tiny white buttons. "That one's a meeting shirt." He was correct. The shirt did the trick. The meeting did not suck. And when I returned to return the 6th wedding top-eyed panic purchased, I managed somehow to walk out with his number. His name was Ethan. He taught 8th grade science, which he might have made up because how do adults have patience for middle schoolers? He had this listening thing where he made everything feel solved inside of you, like he could just go in and unravel the knots. We started doing the typical city couple routine, Saturday farmers market, biking through faux places, making fun of influencers at the park, and then proceeding to do the exact same thing they just did because the light actually was good. I took him around my sister a few weeks after. This is where it all starts to feel like a rerun that I keep watching, hoping to catch the frame where it went wrong. My sister Avery and I are a year and a half apart, so we've been each other's limb for as long as I can remember. She's louder than me, funnier than me, dresses this way where she looks like she just threw something on and yet it's style. When we were children, she was the one who pushed me into climbing the neighbor's tree even though I was afraid of heights, then sat up there with me for an hour when I freaked out. She's the one I dial when I think I've developed a new freckle and it's probably cancer, and she's the one who reminds me I'm being dramatic because she loves me. I didn't think twice about letting her into my relationship because she's been in my everything my entire life. What do you do when your sister is your best friend? Isn't that what you do? From the second she met him, it was like this huge sigh of relief. We had game night at my apartment, the kind with Little Caesars and a sticky bottle of Chardonnay and the TV on mute in the background. Avery leaned forward, elbows on knees, actually making eye contact with him. "You teach? Like for real?" "With desks," she asked, and he smiled. "With desks, yeah." She told him stories about me he had no right to listen to, like how I once cried because I thought a blueberry had feelings. He told him stories about the kids in his class, how they couldn't commit to the bit of pretending photosynthesis wasn't real. Avery laughed. I watched his shoulders unclench when she laughed. It was a test he was passing. Later that night, when he left, she threw herself on my couch and said, "I like him. I really like him." And I could unbunch my body because her approval had always been this unspoken approval stamp. "But," she said, and I frowned, "I'm not doing the thing where I bite my tongue if I see you do your thing." "What thing?" I asked, sticking a finger into my wine like a child. "You get," she stopped in that way that heralded honesty. "You get a bit much. You suffocate a guy with all your love language on day 4. You're a golden retriever with an Amazon wish list. It's adorable, but some guys panic. Just let him chase a little. Don't fill every silence. Let him text first sometimes." I rolled my eyes but nodded too because I do know myself. I'm passionate. Yes, I already have tickets, and yes, I got you a toothbrush for my house, and yes, I saw this and thought of you. I love loudly. And in other relationships, that has been too much for some people who like lamps instead of sunlight. So I took her suggestion as I always did, smoothed out my edges because I knew she could see something I couldn't. The first month with Ethan was easy anyway, so holding back did not seem like a struggle. He carried an extra tote bag with him, which for some reason was more sexy than any cologne. He brewed coffee in my kitchen and always cleaned the counter, as if he felt obligated to leave places in a better condition than he'd found them. He'd lift my chin to kiss me while our takeout was getting cold on the counter, tell me, "Don't burn your mouth," with a half smile. Small things. The sort of things that create the illusion of forever. We had a cadence. Wednesday nights were his late grading nights, and I sent him "you're a hero" memes, and he sent me photos of the terrible diagrams his children drew. On Saturdays, we did errands together, which was oddly intimate. The first time he pushed the cart and I placed a box of cereal inside and he didn't flinch at the cost, I felt something in my chest go, oh, we could be a we. Avery was there the way she always is. She'd call me after our dates, ask the rapid-fire questions. What did you eat? Did he open doors? Did he make you laugh? Has he seen you without mascara yet? She was excited for me. Or she seemed excited. She posted a photo of the three of us at the botanical gardens and captioned it, "Third-wheeling my favorite couple," with a heart eyes emoji. She texted me about football games like she'd been a fan all along, although she called touchdowns home runs last year. There were little weird things if I scroll back in my mind now. How she started hanging out with him from time to time without me, under the pretense of "you're working and he's off and I'm bored, we're just going to get coffee." Or how she'd get into this advisory position after he and I had a small fight, like she was his handler. But at the time it didn't raise any flags. She was my best friend wrapping things in bandages when I had no idea how to stem the bleeding. She'd be all, "Hey, if you're mad, breathe," and send him a "I need 20 minutes" text. Don't fire hose him with 19 paragraphs. It made sense. It sounded like growing up. Then I began to notice Ethan pulling back just a bit. A gradual inching away rather than a step away clean. It wasn't any dramatic movie move. No screaming fights. It was less loud and therefore more deadly. He'd take a bit longer to respond to texts, which, fine, people do have lives. But then he'd go silent after 9 p.m. every evening, like he had a bedtime for his phone. He'd always face the phone down on the table when we were together. I once told him, "You know I don't care if you check your phone, right?" And he told me, "It's for me. I want to be with you." Which, okay. But also, things that seem to be tenderness can also be hiding places. I'd tell it to Avery on my midnight calls, the ones when I'd walk around my small kitchen and trace the line of grout with my toe. "I think he's getting a little distant," I'd tell her. Like, I can sense him in the room, but I can sense him in another room in his head. "Give him space," she'd say, like it was a diagnosis and a prescription. "If you push, he'll run. Trust me. This is the good part where you don't mess it up." One time, she said, "He's a good guy, but he needs to feel like he's choosing you. Not like you're assigning him to you." That one hurt. I didn't try not to let it. Meanwhile, Ethan was saying weird, therapist-type things to me that didn't sound like him. We'd be in the middle of cooking dinner, and I'd say something like, "Do you think we'll be at that wedding in July together?" And he'd say, "Let's just keep it light." Like, no future talk for a bit. He said the words "no future talk" like something he'd learned somewhere. It hung in the air like a pot you've left on simmer. Here's where I wish I could say that I brought it up right away. That I said, "Hey, are you okay? Everything all right?" But I didn't. I did what I always do. I tried to be the cool girlfriend. I made a joke. I gave him space that didn't so much feel like space but a void. And every time I wanted to text him, I texted Avery instead, and she'd be all, "You're doing so good. He'll come back in. Trust the process." I was at Avery's apartment one night, and we were drinking the kind of wine that's as expensive as a granola bar. She had a copy of this relationship book or something on her coffee table, Girls in STEM for Love or something, and I picked it up and looked through. A page was dog-eared and underlined, "Men want to feel like the hero." I was going to make a joke about her becoming a pick-me girl, but then she scooped up her phone in that secretive little way people do when they have something to hide and turned its screen down. It was 11:30. I registered the time. I had no clue why it lodged in my mind like a splinter. A week later, I stopped by Ethan's classroom to help him with a bulletin board, and I saw his laptop open with iMessage pings appearing like popcorn. He shut it too quickly and said, "It's just the kids. They never sleep." He was flushed, and I attributed it to middle school chaos. And then, 2 months in, he broke up with me. Not sloppily. Not cruelly. Just precisely like he had it planned out. We were sitting on my couch, this very sofa I'm sitting on now. The television was on, muted, and there were penguins waddling around on the ice. He said, "You know I care for you. But something feels heavy. I need to do some work on myself right now. I don't want to keep you hanging on. You deserve to have someone who can meet you where you are." I'd have said in those words myself. I'd previously heard those words. Though the odd thing was, he said them with the same rhythm of a sentence I'd recently heard somewhere else and couldn't place. It was déjà vu wearing a gray sweater. Is this regarding the wedding? I inquired. Or the week I fell silent because work was hell. I can do something if there's something. No, it's not something you can fix, he said. It's me. He trailed off. I'm just not what you need. I nodded. I'm annoyingly stoic when I break up with people, like my face freezes and I go into customer service mode. Thank you for being honest, I said. Do you want to take your plant? I nodded toward the sad little pot hose in the corner like an idiot. He didn't take it. He left, and I was there with the penguins migrating. Avery texted me 20 minutes later. Bring ice cream? I said yes. She showed up with 2 pints and a halo above her head for being such a good sister. I did not cry with her. I cried in the shower afterward. I pressed my face against cold tile and silenced myself so she wouldn't hear because she had fallen asleep on my couch under a blanket. Whenever I started to think, I thought about something else. Penguins. Grocery lists. Teeth. The next morning, she made me coffee and left it on my nightstand like I was at a hotel. You will be okay, she said. He was not your person. I wished I could believe her because not believing her would mean I'd have to feel the loss of both him and the regular thing between us. Days went by. The world did not end, which was offending. Work emails still came. Strangers continued to cut me off on the highway. I put his sweatshirt in a bag and then took it out of the bag and wore it and then put it in the bag again. When I told friends, they made the face that all friends make and said the line, if he's not all in, he's out. We are all operating within the same few scripts, apparently. And then, by accident, I found out. This is the mid-plot twist you've been waiting for. It didn't come dramatic, with me catching them in a restaurant holding the wrong person's elbow. It came stupid and small. It came because I dropped my phone and checked my mail using Avery's iPad. I was at her house. She was in the shower. Her iPad lit up, as iPads do, with those big bubble messages that you can't help but read even when you're trying not to. The name at the top was Ethan, and my stomach dropped before my brain did. I told myself I wouldn't watch. I flipped the iPad over, face down. I went into the kitchen and got water and set it down, and then saw that my hands were shaking so hard I'd only dropped the glass anyway. I went back. The iPad lit up again. 11:02 p.m. Ethan, I did it. She took it, okay? I guess. I feel like a monster. 11:04 p.m. Avery, you're not a monster. You're honest. She needs someone who won't let her spiral. 11:05 p.m. Ethan, you think I did the right thing though? 11:06 p.m. Avery, 100%. She's intense, you know that. It would have wrecked you eventually. I cracked right open. It's like your whole body surges with hot and then cold, and you have no idea if you are going to puke or faint or manage to do both. I grabbed the iPad. I scrolled. The conversation went back months. Midnight texts every night. 10:49 p.m. 11:32 p.m. 12:11 a.m. Sometimes there were voicemails. They had inside jokes about my habits like I wasn't human, like I was a character they were authoring together. I saw her giving him advice. That was the exact advice she'd been giving me, just loaded. She'll need a lot from you, she wrote. You're a caretaker, and caretakers burn out. Don't get sucked into planning a future if you're not sure. She translates that as a promise. You can't fix her. She has to fix herself. And this, 2 weeks before the breakup. If you're not feeling it, do it soon. Rip the Band-Aid. I'll help you through it. And this, the night he broke up with me, earlier than when he would come over, write a draft so you don't freeze. And then he had copied in a draft. And she'd edited it. Line by line. Like a poetry workshop. Say, you deserve someone who can meet you instead of you deserve better. It's nicer. I scrolled until my thumb hurt. There was no blatant flirting. Or perhaps there was flirting and it was encoded. We get each other, he texted once. I don't need to explain everything to you. She sent him a photo of the cat she was fostering, and he said, she looks like you. She said, indifferent with resting bitch face, and he said, beautiful with standards. I heard the shower turn off, water hitting the tile. I set the iPad down like it was fragile. I got up and walked to the bathroom and leaned against the door frame, and when she opened the door, towel wrapped around her, water on her neck, she looked at my face and said immediately, "What's wrong?" "I read your messages," I said. My voice wasn't my own. It sounded as though I was speaking down a corridor. Her eyes softened for half a second, then hardened. "You were spying?" I wasn't. I started, then hesitated. You were texting him. Every night. For months. She pulled the towel tighter, as though she were cold. He reached out, she said. He was confused. He didn't want to hurt you. You scripted him, I said. You wrote the lines. I helped him be kind, she said, as if it were charitable. Would you prefer he ghosted? Would you prefer he strung you along another 6 months and left you worse off? You could have told me, I said, and then my voice broke because that was the fault line down the center. You were my person. I told you everything. And you were talking about me with him like I was a problem you were handling together. She sighed as if she were tired. You came to me for advice. I told you what to do. You did the opposite and love-bombed anyway. He was freaking out and texted me since he knew you'd freak out if he texted you and you'd blow up his phone and turn it into a thing. So she shrugged. I took care of it. There was something that hardened within me, like clay in an oven. Handled it, I repeated. You handled my relationship. I protected you, she replied, and the word rang out in the room. I protected you from yourself. I left. I did not slam the door since slamming doors appear to be giving someone a scene. I went home and sat on the floor and looked at the plant he didn't take. The soil was dry and the leaves were curling up at the edges as if they were trying to shrink in order to survive. That is when the slow collapse started. I think people imagine betrayal like a car crash, noisy, sudden, shattered glass everywhere. Mine was a leak. I doubted everything. I reran texts with both of them, but now every line had underlines that I hadn't made. I reran their midnight voice messages in my head, though I didn't press play. She's intense. You're a caretaker. She needs to fix herself. So many ways of saying that I was too much. I did call him once. Just once. It was a week later, and I'd finally slept more than 3 hours and awakened with that odd clarity that leads you to do stupid and courageous things. He answered on the first ring. Hey, he said, as if waiting for me. I've noticed you've been talking to Avery, I said. I didn't say I saw everything. I didn't say I could quote his lines back to him. There was a pause. Yeah, he said finally. She called me after our first fight to check on me. It wasn't. He took a breath. I know how it looks. How it looks is that my sister took you by the hand and walked you to the door, I said. How it feels is worse. He did not apologize. He said, it's complicated. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say that complicated is the word you use when something is filthy and you do not wish to get your hands filthy. I had wished to say to him that he owed me the respect of letting me be present in my own story. What I did was say, okay, and hang up, because I didn't know that I could rely on my mouth not to spill out all my pain like an offering I did not mean to make. The next few days were a series of small deaths. I unfollowed him, followed, then muted because I'm not a masochist, but I'm not a saint. I muted Avery too. I didn't block her because blocking felt final and final felt like an admission that I'd lost something I might still get back. I avoided my mom's calls because my mom could smell sadness and would show up on my doorstep with soup and a million questions I had no answers for. People will tell you to get to know yourself again after a thing like this. Go to therapy. Eat healthy food. Take a bubble bath. I did all of those things. I sat opposite a stranger beneath soft lights and said, my sister betrayed me, and then, is it betrayal if she thought she was helping? I ate a salad that tasted of grass. I bathed and watched the water become cool around me, which felt like a metaphor I couldn't deal with. What did work, however, was silly. I'm sorry. I hope it was something profound. It was wiping my kitchen counters. It was folding a towel in a perfect square. It was planting a new pot hose. The plant he didn't take died so quietly, you can miss it, and watching the new one occupy space. It was taking my phone and placing it in the other room and reading a whole book using both hands. It was hearing my own voice say, I'm hungry, and then making myself a sandwich like my body was not a problem to solve, but a person to care for. The confrontation with Avery was unavoidable, so it eventually occurred. She did plenty of texting meanwhile. Can we talk? I miss you. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't answer because I couldn't form a sentence I could say that wouldn't also light a match. I invited her over on a Tuesday when I knew my neighbors were at home since I didn't trust us not to become something noisy. She entered like someone who was entering a church. She sat on the edge of my couch like she'd never sat there before. I don't know how to talk to you, she said, and her voice dissolved into the kind of sobbing that I know she hates. I did what I thought was right. If I'm guilty of anything, it's of loving you too much. My therapist would have said that is not what guilt is, but my therapist was not there. You loved me into the corner, I said. You provided my boyfriend with words to use to break up with me. You repeated things about me that I trusted you with. You told me I'm intense, as if I'm a weather storm that requires a forecast. You told me do it soon. You told me keep it casual with me. You told me don't make promises to me. I told him the truth, she responded. No, I said, and this was the surprising part, the part like walking onto ground I did not know existed. You shared with him your truth about me. Your version. You've been phoning me too much since we were 10. You despise the part of me that needs reassurance. You despise the part that says, are you mad? Because you grew up in the same house and questioning things gets you hurt. I love differently than you do. I needed you to love me enough to see that and not make it a problem. She looked at her hands. She spoke, hardly audible. He and I just understood each other. It felt easy. It hit me then, like a last domino falling. She hadn't just been my sister. She'd been his person. Not in the romantic sense, though God knows I had that thought at 3 a.m., but in the sense that matters. She'd been his translator. And I'd permitted it because I have always outsourced myself to my sister when the world is too loud. I hand her the reins and beg her to drive. I'm going to ask you for something, I said to her. She looked up. I'm going to ask you not to speak to anyone I go out with. Not until I say it's okay. Not unless I ask you specifically to. I'm going to ask you to be my sister, not my supervisor. I'm going to ask you to have a little faith that I can take care of my own life. She nodded. Tears. Not crocodile tears, not performative, just the kind that fall because your body needs to release water. I can do that, she said. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought she meant it. I also knew sorry was not a time machine. We hugged, but not in the old manner. There was a stiff strangeness to it. There was sadness in it. We would have to relearn one another or not at all. We would have to move slower and be less enmeshed and grow new muscles. Because I wanted her in my life. But not like that. Never like that. Ethan texted me once, months later, in May when the jacarandas were dropping purple confetti everywhere on the pavements. It said, hope you're good. I stared long enough to memorize the pixels. I deleted it. He is not my villain. He chose what he did based on what he knew, and maybe I would have done the same if my secret person had been someone who thought I should lose weight. But he wasn't my person. The definiteness of that was a dash of cold water in my face. The bigger thing, the thing I want to say out loud since I would have eye-rolled if someone else said it, is that I stopped asking other people to interpret myself to me. I stopped putting my feelings on the chopping block for other people to cut and serve me bite-sized. I let my wants be heard within my own head. I learned to sit in the pain without texting my sister or my boyfriend or anyone who could give me a plan. I stayed in the room with my feelings like they were a toddler having a tantrum, and I didn't take them to Target to make them happy. I let them cry it out and then we went home. I dated again. Not mythic love stories. Coffee dates where the person talked about crypto for 20 minutes and I paid my half and left. A guy who modeled socks on Instagram and said his therapist didn't get him. A nice guy who wasn't funny enough for me, and I didn't try to contort myself to make him laugh or stay. I'm not smoothed out. I'm not healed. But I'm more myself now. Avery and I are okay. We text each other videos of dramatic dogs and recipes we will never make. We had a big fight in a Target over whether a pot for a plant was tacky, then made up in line while buying gum. We don't have midnight recaps of my love life. She occasionally texts me, proud of you, when I say no to something. I text her, you still need to call mom, when she forgets. It is distinct. It is actual. It is smaller and less dangerous. It is ours. I sometimes think about the version of me that would have stayed angry forever. The righteous one. I understand her. It is appealing, the story where you are only the person that things happen to. Yet the truer thing is, I permitted this to be done to me in the way that one permits a river to sweep them along, because the river is familiar. My work now, and maybe your work too, is to build a shoreline. To build a voice inside that says, this is what I want, and then to say it out loud to the people who have to hear it. Not through an interpreter. Not through a sister. Not through somebody you love and who loves you, but loves you in a way that is lessening you. If you're curious about what became of Ethan, he's still teaching. I heard through a friend of a friend that he's now doing marathons and consuming protein bowls like it's a religion. Good for him. If you're curious about what happened to the plant, the new one is thriving. I move it around the apartment wherever there is light. It's a dumb, simple joy to watch something grow because you've taken care of it and nurtured it when it needed it. I made a promise to myself. The next time someone says, keep it light to me, I'm gonna say, I'm not light. I'm not easy. I'm luminous. I'm complete. If you require light, go stand in the sun. If you require me, wear your sunglasses. and I will never allow anyone else to decide if I'm too much. That's my choice. I get to be the one who speaks for me. If you've experienced anything like that, I'd absolutely love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you even a little bit, don't be shy, like, subscribe, and turn on that bell.